If your watercolors always look tight, stiff, or unfinished, chances are you're not really painting with watercolor, you're drawing with it. The problem is that watercolor is a medium with its own logic. So in this video, I'll show you how to switch from drawing logic to watercolor logic using one full landscape as an example, so things finally start looking loose and realistic. Here's the reference photo I'm painting from. Landscapes are actually the most unforgiving subject when it comes to watercolor, and that's why I picked that. They immediately expose whether you're painting or drawing. And that's usually why so many watercolors end up looking super tight or so loose that you're not even sure what you're looking at. And this is where understanding watercolor logic makes all the difference. The best watercolor paintings usually start with the smallest possible sketch. That's why I'm only tracing the horizon line here. It'll help me accurately place the sky, the sea, and the rocks. So unless you're dealing with a very precise subject like a face or a building, watercolor doesn't need a detailed drawing. Sky, sea, and rocks aren't fixed shapes. They move, they shift, and blur. So if your painting looks tight, a detailed sketch could be the reason why. I'm also working with a limited palette, and that's what so many artists recommend because it naturally pushes us to paint instead of draw. When you have too many colors, it's very easy to fall back into outlining, filling, and separating every area. I'm using blue, yellow, pink, and black. And to choose your palette, first glance quickly at your reference. That will help you identify the main colors. They're the ones that you notice immediately when you do that. That is step 1. Step 2 is to make sure that you have at least 2 bright or happy colors for midtones and 1 very dark color to build depth. And then you'll rely on the watercolor paper and water for the brightest highlight because every painting needs light, mid, and dark tones. Now the background. Whenever you can, start with the wet and wet technique. It's no wonder it is one of the 2 main techniques for watercolor because this is the fastest way to create a base that will never look tight or drawn. Because on wet paper, the paint melts and moves on its own. So even if you're a perfectionist like me, you'll find it helps you loosen up. I wet the paper thoroughly so it doesn't dry too fast. Then I focus on blocking in the main colors only, no more. No details and no overthinking. To place the colors accurately, again you can blink a few times at your reference to remove the details and let you see only the large color shapes. That's watercolor logic. Big first and small later. How you use brushstrokes is where drawing instinct starts turning into painting. On wet paper, I use intentional brushstrokes to suggest information without outlining anything. For example, sometimes I tap the brush to create clouds. Sometimes I use curved strokes. And sometimes I use straighter ones. These strokes already tell the viewer what's happening, whether the sky feels calm or dramatic, without overdoing it with too many details. Here it just reads as a cloudy sky with a calm sea. No harsh lines or outlines, just strokes doing the work. Notice also I'm covering the entire page, not finishing one area and then moving to the next. That's because watercolor doesn't work in sections, it works in layers. Think of each layer as one puzzle piece. I know it's weird at first, but it will come with practice. Alone, a layer is not going to look like much. But at the end, layer after layer, everything clicks together. That's also why we talk about an ugly stage of watercolor when things look weird at first, and towards the end of a painting, things tend to come together beautifully. I'm also careful here to preserve a light, mid, and dark values, always. For example, the farther away the sea is, the lighter and more faded it becomes, so I don't add much paint there since depth comes from value, not detail. Little by little, I add more pigment to my mixes. The colors become stronger, and I let them overlap the softer base layer. This works because the paper is slowly drying. And as it becomes less wet, my paint becomes thicker. All I'm doing is matching paint consistency to paper wetness, which lets me keep painting on wet without harsh edges or weird stains. But I can still suggest a bit of detail in the most discreet way. Everything stays soft and undefined enough that it doesn't make the painting look tight. If your paper dries too fast when you do this, you can just let it dry completely, re-wet it, and continue as if nothing happened. At this stage, I know I'm done when all the known focus elements are clearly suggested. Here, a colorful sky, calm sea, and reflected colors near the horizon. This is already a strong background, but we're not done yet. Remember layers. A second layer on wet is optional, but extremely useful. And I use it in different situations. One is to fix things in a very natural way. Because watercolor doesn't allow erasing like drawing does since they're so different. For example, a blue cloud looked off in the first layer. I didn't like it at all, so I quickly adjusted here. I also increase color intensity with a second layer, especially in the purple clouds near the horizon. That's what you can do if your painting looks very flat and light. Try and use a slightly thicker mix so color actually shows a bit more. Because the paper is still wet here, everything blends naturally. That's why I love a second layer on wet so much. I also love it to add stuff. For example, I emphasize reflections. Then I start adding subtle shadows, especially towards the bottom of the sea. I introduce brown, made by mixing blue, pink, yellow, and a bit of black. This will also be my rock colors, which helps everything look harmonious visually. And again, why so few colors are such a great idea for a watercolor painting. I even tap the brush here to suggest texture in the water. It gives an impression of depth or rocks beneath the surface. On wet, it looks effortless and it doesn't burden the painting. Rocks like trees or grass don't need to be sketched unless it helps your confidence. So I go straight in with brush to paper. Even though rocks are the main subject here, I don't jump into detail immediately. I still start with a loose base, this time on dry paper, so I can control the edges better. That's the main difference. I use a lot of water at first, and I soften dark browns with a clean and damp brush. Just like before, I focus on shape only, not detail. Remember, broad first, detail last. The goal is to make those rocks look like rocks, not copies of the reference. And here too, notice I work on all the rocks together, not one by one. Placement comes first, and then reflections are softened into the base with a damp brush, so they don't look super obvious. Then I add a texture using brush strokes, but I soften parts of them again to avoid stiffness. And with that example here, you can see how using water throughout the process is key, even in the first details. I also vary colors slightly with hints of pink or yellow. And after detailed sketches, using not enough water throughout the process could be another reason why your paintings look a little bit stiff. For color harmony, I also vary them slightly with hints of pink or yellow here and there, so the rocks aren't a flat black, and so they feel connected to the background. Here too, I leave some areas untouched, because that balance between light, mid, and dark shapes the rocks and even gives them a wet or sunlit feel. Now, something I don't think a lot of people realize is that true details aren't tiny brush marks or perfect accuracy. They're about restoring visual balance across the whole painting. That's why I encourage you to step back and look for what you feel is missing. For example, it could be depth, it could be color, contrast, movement. In my painting, I choose to reconnect the sea and the rocks by reworking that area and deepening very light parts. I also suggest a few ripples by rewetting small areas and letting them melt into the existing layers. And around the rocks, I keep refining and darkening areas that still feel too pale. I also lift paint where I want brighter highlights by wetting a spot and pressing a paper towel on top. It's the lifting technique, and look how nice that looks. I glaze a bit of pink in selected areas for extra harmony. That's the cherry on top. Because just like carving a statue, watercolor is built from broad gestures to smaller refinements. If you get that, I'm sure you'll improve a lot faster. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments below. And for more, head over to the description for a link to my watercolor painting series. They break this approach down through different themes in much more detail. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.